Good evening. It's Saturday, August 1st. It's 7:29 p.m. We're going to look at the worldometer numbers. We're going to look at the latest news and some reports showing you the escalating situation of SARS-2 in the world. If we look at the graphs, they're still changing. Dailies are going back up again. Tomorrow, Mexico was already at 784. It's not good. So for today, USA reports the world reports 247,000 new cases. USA 58,000, India 54,000, Brazil 42,000, Colombia 10,000. And in terms of deaths, number one is USA 1,123, Brazil second 1,048, India 852, and Mexico 688. Now it's important to point out that a lot of countries are backlogged. These are very inaccurate old results. Who knows what's happening right now? Nobody knows. There's no point in really trying to. We can only go by this, and it's not as reliable as you would think. As I've pointed out many times, how they sneakily throw in numbers and delete them and do all these things to worldometers, and people don't notice a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. If we look at the U.S. states, number one is Florida with 9,000. Second, California 7,000. Third, Texas 6,000. Georgia fourth 3,000. In terms of deaths, Texas 268, Florida 179, California 137, and Georgia with 73. Military did not report anything today. Veterans and prisons going up. Puerto Rico's going up. A couple of states didn't report. Louisiana, Connecticut, will they? No. Now I do want to point out I'm going to be making a second video today because of this woman, this virologist, Dr. Li Yan. She fled China. She fled the authorities from China, came to the U.S., and she has been trying to expose the Chinese Communist Party for how they covered up the SARS-2 pandemic. And I learned a lot, actually, reading her interviews and seeing what she has to say. And I am very excited for her paper that is going to be coming out very soon. And so definitely check back with me on the video I'm going to be doing right after this. We're going to talk about what she revealed, because I learned a lot. And you will learn a lot too from what she had to say. So you'll probably be hearing about her more often pretty soon. So now for the latest news. Let's see where we're at. So, August 1st news. First dog that tested positive for SARS-2 dies. The dog was euthanized on July 11th after his health had severely declined. Blood tests indicated Buddy had cancer, supposedly. The Staten Island family that owned Buddy tells National Geographic that the 7-year-old shepherd developed breathing problems in mid-April after a family member had been sick with SARS-2. It's unknown if SARS-2 played a role in his illness. This dog should be immediately studied and have an autopsy done. It's important research because there isn't enough research on what's the effects on dogs. While university administrators across North Carolina have spent weeks preparing to bring students back to their campuses amid the ongoing SARS-2 pandemic, one mother says University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill missed a basic step: cleaning the dormitories. The filthy floor included a condom wrapper. The common area was even worse, she said. I was like, this is gross. There was like piles of nail clippings. I was like, come on, how sanitary is this? She said. When we saw the sink, she said, of the kitchen area, I was like, what is this in the sink? It looked like almost mop mud or something. Alan Blader, executive director of Carolina Housing, immediately dispatched a cleaning crew to the building. That's America for you. They're going to send their kids back to school in dirty dormitories. Amid SARS-2, Alaska health officials are dealing with another outbreak, syphilis. According to local media reports, the state's Department of Health and Social Services said sexually transmitted diseases are an all-time high nationwide in Alaska. The State of Alaska Epidemiology Bulletin on Syphilis, published Thursday, stated the number of cases of the sexually transmitted disease doubled in 2019, and health officials are concerned the numbers will reach a similar high in 2020. Arizona Rep. Raul Grijalva said he tested positive for SARS-2 days after attending a hearing with Rep. Louis Gohmert of Texas, who also tested positive and had previously declined to wear a mask. South Korea arrests church leader for obstructing SARS-2 fight. Lee Man-hee heads the Shinjochi Church of Jesus, which is linked to more than a third of South Korea's total cases. They should have arrested this man a long time ago. Two Marine Corps base Hawaii facilities temporarily closed due to SARS-2 infection from within. Yeah, so two Marine Corps bases in Hawaii had an outbreak and had to shut it down. Spain. Video shows how in the city of Valencia, a team of engineers and scientists are going into the sewer network in an attempt to find out where outbreaks are likely to spring up next. So these guys are going into the sewage in parts of Spain, and they're seeing for an increase in the virus in the sewage. If they see an increase, then they alert the officials and they implore, they deploy methods to maybe, I guess, in a sense, lock down the city or start preparing, because it's a sign that there's a coming outbreak in whatever city they found the higher levels in the sewage. Mexico now has the third most SARS-2 deaths in the world, behind Brazil and the United States, where a hurricane bearing down on the East Coast on Saturday is threatening to complicate efforts to contain the virus. McConnell. 1520 GOP senators will not vote for any SARS-2 stimulus checks or other relief, delaying aid for millions of poverty-hit Americans that are now desperate for aid and nearing eviction. It's a travesty, a complete travesty. Florida, which is continuing to battle a SARS-2 surge, is now preparing for Tropical Storm Isaias, complicating efforts to contain the virus. The entire east coast of Florida is bracing for potential impacts, anything from strong winds to flooding rains and storm surge. So we have Mexico, the state of Florida, and the state of Texas, all getting hit hard by this SARS-2, and it just so happens that they all have a hurricane coming to them. So it's just, it's gonna get so much worse. A Fresno County teenager is the first child to die from SARS-2 in California. Health officials are blocking the release of data on the individual. Why? Why aren't they being transparent? What are they hiding about this kid? California smashes daily record for SARS-2 deaths for the fifth time in a month with 214 deaths. The County Department of Public Health said in a news release that deaths are a lagging indicator that reflects exposures from weeks earlier. Like I'm telling you, Worldometers is behind. It is very behind. The amount of people dropping dead as I'm speaking is significantly higher than whatever you're seeing in Worldometers. I can guarantee you that. I mean, you have areas like Yemen reporting 1 death a day, 2 deaths a day, when they've obviously been ravaged by this virus. But they're not going to report it, as I've spoken about even before. They're labeling their dead as casualties of war without even testing them and not even testing them when they are being killed by the virus. Journalists in Yemen are talking about this, but nobody wants to pay attention to it. California County health officials have been warning about an anticipated increase in deaths following a sharp increase in hospitalizations that began in mid-July, roughly 2 weeks after the 4th of July weekend. Officials are blaming the rise in fatalities on numerous public gatherings that weekend, despite health restrictions banning them. So we all knew this was coming. It happened with Memorial Day. It happened with Mother's Day. Now it's happening with the 4th of July weekend. People just didn't want to listen, and now they're dead. So Saturday's game between the St. Louis Cardinals and Milwaukee Brewers has been postponed after one player and multiple members of the Cardinals staff tested positive for SARS-2. It was announced Saturday. Yeah, sports in America has been hit very, very hard. Very, very hard. I don't know what's going to happen to these players. It's like every time there's like a new team with an outbreak. At least 260 campers who attended an overnight summer camp in Georgia have been infected with SARS-2, the CDC reported Friday. The CDC stated that on June 17th, staff members arrived for a 4-day orientation at an overnight summer camp, unidentified by the report. 4 days later, on June 21st, 363 campers and 3 senior staff members joined these staff members, adding to a total of 597 Georgia residents who attended the camp. I may have done a typo here. So basically, almost all the 600 got infected, and the majority of them were kids. ages like 8, 11, 13, 16. So this was a super spreading event. And the fact that almost nobody escaped is not. It shows you that there are levels of infectious among this virus that we still don't know, because how did it spread so fast, so suddenly? We'll get back to that in another report I'll be doing in a few minutes. Lastly, some scientists are taking a DIY coronavirus vaccine themselves, and nobody knows if it's legal or if it works. So that reminds me immediately of the movie Contagion, where the scientists literally injected themselves with a vaccine and just said, okay, I'm taking a chance here. So that movie just seems to be coming to life more and more and more. And you should probably, and if you haven't watched Contagion, watch it. It actually informs you quite a bit about pandemics. I learned a few things off of watching it. Researchers from Johns Hopkins University found SARS-2 can hide in an unexpected place inside and behind the human ear. The new discovery means that otolaryngologists who might have previously been more relaxed when examining their patients are at risk of catching the virus. So I have been wondering for the longest time, what is the relation between SARS-2 and the ears? Well, it hides in the ears. So don't pick your ears. Don't touch nobody's ears. SARS threat rises across the U.S. We just have to assume the monster is everywhere. Yeah. The virus is spreading at dangerous levels across much of the United States. The public health experts are demanding a dramatic reset in the national response, one that recognizes that the crisis is intensifying and that current piecemeal strategies aren't working. This is a new phase of the pandemic, one no longer built around local or regional clusters and hotspots. It comes at an unnerving moment in which the economy suffered its worst collapse since the Great Depression. Schools are rapidly canceling plans for in-person instruction, and Congress has failed to pass a new emergency relief package. President Trump continues to promote fringe science. The daily death toll keeps climbing, and the human cost of the virus in America has just passed 150,000 lives. 43 million Americans at risk of eviction as relief programs and moratorium expire. It's a nightmare. So the GOP is delayed our stimulus package. They have cut unemployment benefits in America. We have millions of people in America that are about to go homeless. And with the GOP playing games, these people are going to get mad and they're going to go out into the streets, and we're going to start seeing poverty rights. We already have, the what's going on with Black Lives Matter. We're gonna see another wave of protests revolving around poverty. It's gonna happen. Too many people are too broke and too desperate. I'm broke. I'm not desperate yet, but I'm pretty broke too. Now I did forget to add one thing here. In Indiana, a school opened up. It reopened, and on the first day that it reopened, they found an active case among a student who was in a class, many classes, walking through the hallways. So in America, schools are reopening and they are immediately catching cases. It didn't last that long. So let's see. I think we have two more things to talk about. I'm going to talk about Israel, which has been almost looks like a target to SARS-2. And look at Texas for a bit, and some religious stuff that is obnoxious. So, CBG report number 59. Corona Chan sets her eyes on Israel edition. Jerusalem Affairs Minister Rafi Peretz announced Saturday he has tested positive for SARS-2. Israel Police Jerusalem District Commander Doron Yedid will enter quarantine since he met over the past week with Peretz. Peretz is the third lawmaker to test positive for SARS-2, following Housing Minister Yaakov Litzman and Joint List MK Sami Abu Shahade. Litzman tested positive in April when he was serving as health minister, allegedly after attending group prayers barred under the health ministry's guidelines. Barred, by the way. He denied violating any rules. So he's in complete denial. Additionally, a spokesperson for the Knesset said 3 lawmakers from Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party would have to enter quarantine after coming into contact with a virus carrier earlier this week at the Knesset Parliament building. The 3 lawmakers were Intelligence Minister Amir Ohana, NK Avi Dishter, and NK Osnat Mark. One of Cohen's aides and 2 of Mark's were also required to isolate. The announcements came as the health ministry showed 1,193 new SARS-2 cases were recorded over Shabbat, raising the total number of infected over 72,000. The death toll jumped to 526. as 14 SARS fatalities were recorded. 14 SARS-2 fatalities were recorded since sundown on Friday evening. Despite all this, the country's new SARS-2 czar, Professor Ronnie Gamzu, is skeptical to enforce more lockdowns and admitted he isn't concerned with the health system collapsing under SARS-2 outbreaks. He said the socioeconomic trauma is much greater than the health one. What a nice way to say you care more about the economy than the people. In a separate interview with Channel 12 News, Gamzu criticized a government decision that could allow thousands of Yeshia students from the United States into Israel for the high holidays. Israel currently has one of the highest rates of infection per capita in the world and has seen the number of new SARS cases rocket to some 2,000 a day in recent weeks. So America and Israel are both getting hit exceptionally hard by this virus. I mean, Israel's government is just getting completely disrupted. I would also say to a certain extent, India is also getting hit very hard within its own government. And so that's it's harsh. CG report number 60. The blood of Jesus will not save you. Corona chant is greater than God edition. Don't mind my sarcasm. In California's Bible Belt, churches find ways around states' lockdown orders. I feel safer on this community, Trujillo said. The word that the pastor gives forth is amazing, and it's better in person. I just want to go back. As she entered the church with her kids, where barely anyone wore masks. Churches across the state have been whipsawed by state closure and reopening orders, as church events have been tied to SARS-2 outbreaks. Cases linked to singing during church services have drawn the ire of scientists and even some church leaders. They didn't like being apart at all, Kant said. We have trust in God that nothing will happen. Since the start of the pandemic, none of our members got sick or lost their job. The church will always be victorious. Oh my. When Governor Gavin Newsom called for the suspension of indoor in-person services the second time around, some ignored it while others moved their worship outdoors, including in parking lots. Despite the state orders, Bundy Canyon Christian Church hosted about 60 members without masks in their barnyard church, a larger crowd than they normally received at their 10 a.m. service. Congregants tried to space themselves out and were restricted to sitting next to only people who lived in the same household, per the church's guidelines. But as the building got closer to reach capacity, the task became harder. This pandemic has instilled a level of fear in people, and some is unwarranted, he said. The church is trying to help people lose their fear through God. I am covered in the blood of Jesus Christ, and I don't believe in COVID, and God will never allow me to contract it, another said. I think it's more of a political thing. My God is bigger than coronavirus, she said. I'm not concerned. The comedy writes itself. CVG report number 61. This is the last thing we're doing for this video. Texas doctor speaks. In my hospital, last week was the deadliest week I've ever had in my life. Dr. Varon is the chief of critical care at Houston's UM Medical Center. Harris County, where Houston sits, has the 5th highest number of confirmed SARS-2 cases of any U.S. county. More than 1,200 people in the county have died. I signed more death certificates last week than in my entire life, almost all put together. For the last 4 months, Varon has been waking up at dawn every day and heading to the hospital, working 6 to 12-hour shifts. Most nights, he only sleeps 2 hours because everyone is calling him. As manager of his team, they are both exhausted and afraid. I have over 300 doctors in the staff at our hospital, and only 3 or 4, not 3/4, meant to put 3 or 4, and only 3 or 4 of us go into the COVID unit, and I am there most of the time. People are afraid of going there, and I cannot force them to go in. That's one thing that I cannot do because there is an intrinsic risk of working in a COVID unit. Every day, it's been crazy. What I mean by that is that I have the beds, but I don't have the staff. The nurses are exhausted. They're tired. These are individuals that normally work 3 times per week, and they have been stretching themselves to work 6-7 times a week. They're both physically and emotionally drained, because if you look at the last 3 weeks where we have our highest mortality rates, it's scary and it drains you emotionally. Should schools open up? Absolutely not. There is no way that our hospitals could handle it. Not only my hospital, no hospital could handle it, because it can be a really large surge, just to give you an idea. So this is something that he said that I actually didn't even know about. This doctor says that one individual can infect up to 52 persons per hour. I would really like to know what paper this is, because I would really like to read it. I had never heard that before. So this doctor says that one individual can infect up to 52 persons per hour. You can get yourself into a serious situation. On masks, if I'm telling you to wear a mask, you are going to wear a mask, because when you wear a mask, you are not doing it to protect yourself, you're doing it to protect the other person. Yeah, just the fact that the mask is still a debate is pathetic, really, just pathetic, completely pathetic. That's today's update. I'm about to start the next video on Dr. Yan. Please check that one out too. She has a lot to say, and thank you for watching.